nobody escapes the strains and the stresses, the problems and the challenges in relationships, and particularly in a marriage. We're grateful that the Bible offers so many practical answers. The question is, do we know what those answers are, and are we doing them? When you take these unresolved issues and you don't really get at the root of them, you're going to end up having bigger problems.
When there is self-centered interests, instead of focusing on us and what's good for us, it becomes about me, my desires, and what makes me happy, and me. And that really is going to be a big problem if that continues.
That is another reason why marriages fall apart, because one of or two or both of you are always trying to control things.
But control,
you want it your way.
An issue about fear. We need to know what to do when relationships fall apart.
Stories stir the soul.
Stories reveal.
And stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
we've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm your host, Wendy Pett.
I'm Todd Isberner.
Yes, you are.
Well, thanks for reminding me. Yeah. So
we've been talking about this recently, but the books, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
I've never read that book.
You haven't?
No.
What about
I
He
don't
Said?
Read that
What about He Said, She Said?
He Said, She Said. There's tons of books out there about relationships between men and women because of all the differences. And some are good and some are, kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But it's not a joke when you have a relationship that's
on the brink,
starting
trouble.
Break. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Our topic for today is what happens when relationships fall apart and what to do about it. And we're going to primarily focus on marriages. So really hopeful that you're going to be kind of tuned in a really attentive way to pick up some things that might be going on in your relationship or relationships around you.
Yeah, and the reason we're feeling like this is an important topic is because God has really been giving us the reins, so to speak, to really pour into some friends of ours and just people that we don't know very well, but to mentor and to help them in this time of their broken marriage. And so it's just really on our hearts. And if you're struggling right now in a marriage, or someone who is, I do hope you'll tune in and you'll have some good takeaway nuggets that you can apply to your relationship.
Well, Wendy and I have learned a lot also from failed relationships in our past. So we know what the telltale signs are. So that's our whole goal. This episode is to help you recognize some things. So we're going to talk about the symptoms that are occurring that might start to indicate there's some trouble going on in the relationship. Then we want to talk about the reasons why that happens. And obviously, we want to get into the solutions.
Solutions, for sure.
But I got to say that we're grateful that the Bible offers so many practical answers. The question is, do we know what those answers are, and are we doing them? We're not going to turn it into a sermon or a preach-a-thon, but we're just grateful that the Scripture provides a lot of insight for us, and you know that.
Yeah, for sure. Best guide out there, best book around.
So even knowing a lot of the Bible doesn't mean you're not going to have strain in the relationship. In fact, I remember we might have been married for a couple of years, and we thought, let's take a trip to the Black Hills. That sounds fun, a little road trip.
Yeah, South Dakota.
I'm not quite sure what happened, but the morning that we were getting all packed up, before I got into the truck, it's like you did or said something that really, really bugged me. And I was like, mad, but I didn't talk about it. I just withdrew. So
yeah, for 2 or 3 hours.
I didn't talk.
It was the weirdest
silent treatment.
It was horrible.
And you made it really clear that if that's the way I'm going to be, that's the way you're going to be. So you were staring.
I was going to cave.
No, you were staring out the window, and I could feel the bad vibes coming off of you my way until we finally, about 2-3 hours later, stopped for gas, and while the tank is being filled up with gas, I'm sitting in the driver's seat. You're on the passenger side. We're just staring, not talking, until finally you said, so is this the way it's going to be the entire time? And I was thinking, yeah, I'd like it to be this way. Actually, I'd like to fix you. But it hit me like, well, yeah, this is stupid.
Very stupid.
And I don't even know you and I could go back and figure out what it was.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you even recall or know why you were irritated?
No idea. And that's how these things sneak up on us.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And if you let it go and you don't deal with it before you know it, you've got resentment, bitterness, all kinds of nasty things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the typical symptoms that occur. They're sort of like the warning signs that things aren't going great in the relationship.
Well, and we know the biggest one because it's so obvious when people are arguing and bickering and fighting.
Oh, man.
Just fighting about everything, right? Whether it's big or small issues. And it just becomes the norm. I mean, no one likes to be around that, first of all, but that's kind of a telltale sign that there's a red flag. Something needs to be addressed.
Right. And
No, I was just going to say in Proverbs 17:14, it says, starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. Drop it. Don't withdraw. Don't do the silent treatment. Don't argue. Just drop it.
Yeah, actually, you could if there's something important enough to talk about, then open up and talk about it.
Right.
In a reasonable way and get it resolved. But I'm telling you, some of these issues that you're fighting and arguing about, they're really big issues.
Sure.
And you're not seeing it the same way. And there's tremendous tension as a result. Maybe that's finances. Maybe that's
raising kids
with things with the kids.
Yeah.
Your jobs.
And sometimes that actually does call for a mediator or a mentor, a coach to come in and to help resolve that, right? Because you can only see it your way and they can only see it their way. And it also takes like a surrender, like, okay, let's pick our battles kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I'll let this one go and you have it.
But pay attention. I mean, if you're noticing that you guys are fighting more, arguing more, or somebody that you know is kind of falling into that pattern, that's an indicator that there's something going wrong and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
There's another symptom that I just talked about, and that's withdrawal. That was probably the easier symptom for me that things aren't right.
Oh, it was so irritating.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd like to talk.
All right. So it's like one time out of 15 years.
That's true. That's true.
No, it's not. It's withdrawn more than that.
But not like that. Not like that.
So what happens is you deliberately put an emotional and a physical distance between your opponent because you're in self-survival mode. It's like, okay, she makes me really mad and I don't want her picking on me, so I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to pull back. Or maybe the opposite is true and you're saying
But that doesn't solve the problem.
No, not a bit. It's just a symptom.
Yeah.
That if that goes unattended, things are going to get worse.
Right. Now, another symptom is when there is self-centered interest. Instead of focusing on us and what's good for us, it becomes about me, my desires and what makes me happy and me. And that really is going to be a big problem if that continues
maybe
to
for
show
example,
up.
like you like art and painting and stuff.
Okay, just because I just started some artwork and there's a mess everywhere.
You and your mess and your paint dripping everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. I'm learning. But
that's actually not a self-centered interest. I'm all for that. I championed Wendy's cause when she said, look, I want to take some time. I want to start using my artistic creative skills.
Yeah, I have none. I'm asking the Lord.
That's why her painting. Okay, I gotta just stop here because what's this painting called?
I don't know.
She's got a canvas and she's got these things of paint.
Pour painting. Yeah.
Just literally pouring the paint on it.
Yeah, it's
and then it's
great.
Creating a piece of drip paint art.
It's beautiful. At least I don't draw, so this is good. This is an expression.
All right.
Leave me alone.
Here's another symptom. We're kind of joking about that one, but you know what we're talking about, right? If you're starting to find yourself very self-centered in your interest, and you even want your mate to have anything to do with it,
right?
It's a red
flag.
You're heading down the wrong road.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one, and that is you're finding yourself crabbing more and more about it's a pet peeve. It's just a little thing, but it's becoming
like loading the dishwasher correctly.
Oh my goodness, don't even get me started on that one.
Honestly, Todd will load it and I will reload it because it's just not right.
She doesn't know is when she's out of the room, I reload it again.
No, you don't.
But the truth is there are a number of those little things that you and I have.
Yeah.
We're thankfully able to joke.
We laugh about it.
I laugh about the piles that you leave here and there and don't give you a real hard.
Oh my goodness.
We have these weird little idiosyncrasies. You have them too. But if you let that constantly grab your attention and then you're constantly pointing it out, where are you headed with that? Probably into a fight, an argument, withdrawal, something that won't help your relationship.
That's right.
Here's the reality. When you take these unresolved issues and you don't really get at the root of them, you're going to end up having bigger problems as an outcome. The Bible says where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. And here's one I think that applies even more so, and that is out of Hebrews 12:15. See to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Because if these things are left unresolved, you've tasted that resentment before.
Yeah. That bitterness, that resentment, and that just leads to more and more of a separation and that a wedge in the relationship.
So let me just pause for a minute and say, is anything starting to resonate for you? Are you noticing some things in your marriage or in your relationship where you know it's not as good as it could be or as it should be? And these symptoms are what Wendy and I believe really God's gift to you. They're warning signs. It's like God is raising up a red flag. Is this starting to bother you? Are you finding yourself arguing more? Are you withdrawing? Are you more self-interested than you used to be in your spouse? And stop. Just put a stop sign on and say, okay, I have to address this.
And I must say that, sometimes I would say it's not even an issue with maybe the marriage or the relationship. It might be a spiritual issue yourself. Like, maybe there's a disconnect with you and your creator, and
let's talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit, because I think drifting away from God is the real reason why the relationship starts to fall apart.
Sure.
So there are a whole bunch of reasons. Wendy and I are going to mention 6, 7, 8 of them here that typically are the reason for your marriage starting to get strained or the relationship starting to feel like it's breaking up.
Yeah, one is you forget what brought you together in the first place.
Hello, amnesia.
Yeah. Wow. Like, what brought you together? Like, have you lost that love and feeling kind of thing? And it's like, okay, maybe it's the person's humor or, the fun activities you used to do together, or just their spiritual depth, or just whatever it is. What is it and what brought you together? Go back to that.
Oh, but he's changed. He's not like that anymore.
That's not.
Or she's different now.
I mean, we do change, don't get me wrong, but there's still the same person at the core.
Yes.
Right? And that was what attracted you to one another to begin with. So going back to that and actually having a little refresh. A lot of times we will remind each other and talk about when we first met.
Remember when we used to. And it'll be and then it's a good reflection.
It's just sweet, So having those recollection moments are very important. Actually it says in Revelation 2, 4-5, it says, "Yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken the love you had at first. Consider how far you have fallen." And so I think about that in terms of relationships. Have you, again, forsaken the love you had at first?
Well, that's the heart of Jesus when, he was seeing the bride of Christ forsake him. And he's warning them, and he's writing letters to those churches through the Apostle John. So you can relate with what Jesus felt when there's a drifting away. Sometimes we feel like our mate has forsaken us, and in reality, I've forsaken them because I forgot about what brought us together in the first place.
It's good. Yeah.
The other thing is that it's almost like the opposite of it. I just take everything for granted.
Oh, why? Because I do all your laundry and cook your meals and do your dishes. And
why don't you pay all the bills too? Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the reality is, if you stop, appreciating all the wonderful things about your mate that brought you together, then it's going to start to put a wedge, like when you said earlier, put a wedge in between your relationship, and it could even lead to resentment because you're just skimming over the things that used to be really important for you. Now you're just taking it for granted. I'm just looking at Ephesians 5:33. Each one of you, also, you must love your wife as you love yourself, and the wife must respect her husband. Hey, this is like, hello, common sense.
101. Yeah.
Totally. Husband gives his wife unconditional love. She gives back respect. I'm telling you what, if those two things stay in place, your relationship is never going to be strained. Well, it'll be strained, but it will never fall apart.
But listen, I want to point out, it also says, must love his wife as he loves himself. I'd like to point out that there's a lot of people out there that really aren't loving themselves too well. They don't like who they are. They're not loving themselves well. So it's hard to love your spouse. So
True.
It does start with us a lot of times too.
Yeah.
getting healthy, well, mind, body, spirit, emotions, working on us.
Yeah. What
Help.
happens when you look in the mirror? What happens? What's your reaction?
Yeah.
Because if your reaction is, I don't like that, then you're going to have a hard time loving your mate.
Yeah, but it's not just the physical.
Yeah.
It's so much more.
Well, I mean, like look
the
deep
heart.
inside. So,
Right.
like when I look in the mirror, like I get really happy.
Oh my
Really
gosh,
nice.
Todd. Your head is getting bigger as we're talking.
I'm just kidding. All right.
Also, it's so important to keep up just the romance and the play.
Mm.
Like Todd and I, we really schedule. Sometimes we have a shared calendar, by the way, and all of a sudden I'm like, pickleball's on there, or I'll put something on his calendar, and that's not what we expected for the day, but yet we go with it.
Yeah.
And it's really fun because it's like a play date, and it's been wonderful.
The Bible says, enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life. So maybe you get some meaning out of loving your wife. But
yeah, and
this
the
is
romance
another
part is important. Date nights.
exactly. That's another reason why your marriage is strained, or why you're starting to drift apart, because you're not going back to the things that came so natural in the beginning. You never ignored your spouse. You were like all over them.
Right.
You couldn't wait to romance and play together. And I'm just always impressed by those couples who intentionally set time on their schedules, like my daughter and her husband.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
Yeah.
It's their time. It's their date night. And so you've got to work on it, right? If you start letting that go, like, I don't think we've dated in about, 2 years. I mean, you are in real trouble if that's the case. Just
So
make
pick that
it
back up.
intentional.
Yeah, make that intentional. Start giving flowers to your wife again, or doing little small cute little things for your husband again. I mean, those little things really start to create a spark.
I got to just say this when you said giving flowers. No, because
Because sometimes I buy them for myself.
you do.
Oh.
A lot of times I don't know which ones to buy, but you do a good job on it. No, years and years ago, my dad was driving his truck through the country, and along the ditch on a gravel road, he saw a whole bunch of flowers. They're wildflowers. They weren't crazy attractive, but they were flowers. He's pulled a bunch of them out, and he brought them home to my mom. And he had them behind his back, and he held them out. And I mean, she literally just
She told that story.
went into tears. For a lifetime,
Yeah.
that impacted her. So you just never know what it might be, even that little thing that can just prove to your spouse how much you really love them.
That's right. That's a good point. It's not like you have to go out and buy flowers.
Yeah.
Go out and just make your own bouquet. I mean, that's a beautiful gesture.
That's a great idea.
Okay, you're gonna pull some weeds. Here's some dandelions, and
Oh, man.
all right. So
Here's another reason.
another reason is just a preoccupation with my life, my interests, which is what I kind of mentioned earlier. But when one or both partners become just overly focused on their own goals, their own agenda, their own hobbies, their own career. Okay, that's a big one because a lot of people are really focused on their career. And there's nothing wrong with being focused on their career, but if the career is overriding the relationship, that's a red flag, right? And that happens a lot.
So the Bible says, let each of you look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And I think of that verse quite often because it is so easy for me to slip over into that area of things that matter to me. And God will remind me often that I need to pay attention to what matters to Wendy. So I just want to,
Yeah, that's good.
right. What about me? So I just want to encourage you and challenge you to really do a little self-evaluation. Where are you at with that? How much attention are you paying to your loved one's life and their interests versus time you're spending on yourself?
Yeah, it definitely goes both ways. And another reason that relationships fall apart is, when people start having those little sideways comments and little belittling and name calling,
Ooh.
that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Because
First kind of
life and death is in the power of the tongue, right? Yeah, it may start out as a joke, but it's not funny. You want to lift your spouse up. You want to encourage and call them forth to greater, right? That's a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I'm just pausing to think about that for a minute too, because power of life and death is in the tongue. And just how many times do we miss an opportunity to give affirmation and blessing to our loved one, because it's so much easier to be irritated by the things that you see them doing that just don't seem to in any way help you at all, and even help themselves. And so then you become critical and your mouth speaks out those criticisms. We've been around a few couples where
It's uncomfortable.
it's because they just are
Yeah.
tearing at each other with their tongues, and they're trying to do it in a way that is disguised. But you know what we're talking about. If you've ever been criticized or you're one who criticizes,
Yeah.
then it's only going to be one more reason why that relationship is going to start to drift.
And might I encourage you, if you're in a place where you don't really, quote unquote, feel like giving those affirmations and life-giving words to your spouse because there's kind of this friction, I promise when you start to give those words, the response in return, eventually, it may not happen in the beginning, will come forth. And you'll feel better about yourself and how you're speaking. And eventually your spouse, if they're not receiving them at first, they will start to receive them, and it will warm their hearts and chisel away at the hardness. So there's power there.
That little tongue right here.
Yep. I know. It can do a lot. It
can bless or it can curse.
Yeah.
So here's another reason that marriages start to fall apart, and that is unresolved conflicts that lead to growing resentments. And so when something comes up and it seems like, here we go again, your goal is to do the very best you can to bring some resolution to it. Even though there may be hurt feelings involved and things have been festering for a while, just make it your absolute primary goal. We've got to get this resolved.
Mm-hmm.
What you say, they're never going to see it my way. Okay, well then bring that into the resolution, just stating what you believe, hearing them on what they believe, and then just lovingly agree to disagree. That doesn't mean you have to stop loving them or respecting them.
Right.
It just means you have differences of opinion.
Right.
So the conflict doesn't need to lead to resentment if you don't get that person to see it your way.
That's right.
And even the Bible says in Ephesians 4:26, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry.
Yeah, Todd.
So Wendy and I have an agreement.
No, Todd has the agreement
We have a different,
that we will talk about the issue in the morning when he's fresh.
clear-minded.
And I like to get it.
Regret saying
But look, this in the Bible. This says it in the Bible.
I know what.
Do not let.
Here's what I do. I give my anger over to God.
But then what about me? I'm up all night thinking about
your problem. Got to surrender it, woman. We're gonna get it.
No, we're gonna talk about it before we go to bed.
Well, thankfully, that those instances are few and far between.
Thank goodness. That's
Wait
right.
till tonight.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Also, here's a last point that we'll bring up is listening to lies about finding happiness with someone else.
Oh boy, that's poison.
Like there's poison around that. When people around you that are saying, you know what, you just deserve to be happy. Yeah. You need to be happy. And or social media, or that jerk of a wife, whatever you're hearing from others, they're lies, right? You know the truth, and you know what brought you two together. And so stop feeding off of other people's opinions and social media's ideas of you deserve this and that. And yes, you do deserve to be healthy and whole and complete, but you got to work on it, right? It doesn't mean you go from one person to the next. The grass is not greener, okay? So you got to water the grass where you are. Yeah.
When the devil
Which reminds me, we do need to water the grass outside. It's starting to get brown outside.
World. When the devil lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and he's the father of lies. And Jesus said that in John 8:44 is where it's recorded. So we really have to be paying close attention. You know what? Yeah. If we stay close to God, the devil won't have as much of a chance to have us buy into his lies. And that was a seventh one I just want to pull in here. Another reason why marriages fall apart is you start drifting away from God. Start making excuses why.
That's 8.
Actually, that's number 7 here. Wait,
8,
no.
because I found another one.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's number 8. Wow. There's lots of reasons. In fact, there's 114, but we're only going to cover 8 or 9. But seriously, when you or your spouse are drifting away from the Lord, you're immediately opening yourself up to ways in which the devil can trip you up in your marriage, because he does not want our enemy is so opposed to what God instituted in the form of marriage and family.
Right.
So he will find any way, any excuse to attack you. And if you drift away from God, he's going to be able to do that. Now,
being wise and knowing that, then you can be very intentional. Yeah. But having said that,
having said that, you might notice that your spouse is drifting away. And so you try to take over the situation and control.
Control.
That's the last one I'm going to mention.
Okay.
that is another reason why marriages fall apart, because one of or two or both of you are always trying to control things. Like,
But control
you want it your
the
way.
issue about fear.
It is. I'm afraid that you're not going to do what I want you to do or be the way I want you to be. Think about it. Peel back the layer on that. Ultimately, that's it.
It's all about you then.
It's all about me. It's that self-centered, and so you want to control the other one. So that's a
You got
big,
confused,
huge
Dad.
danger. Well, when I say me,
I'm kidding. I know.
I'm speaking, collectively.
Okay.
At least
For all the men. Okay. Oh man.
All right,
Okay.
let's
So
talk about something.
what to do? We need to know what to do when relationships fall apart, because we know how it gets there. We know the symptoms. But what do you do? So the first thing is, again, going back to what brought you together. Reflect on that and really make it even part of your date night, or go sit outside or take a walk together and just start talking and reminiscing.
Reminisce.
I mean, you kind of get that giddy little feeling again, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that, and it starts to bubble up that joy and that love again, and it sparks things.
I just talked to somebody recently they're really having a tough time right now in their marriage, but I asked him, what was it about her that you liked in the first place? And, he was a little uncomfortable because he had to really think, because it had been that long, been married for quite a few years. He had to go back thinking, what exactly was it that really drew me to her? And after he started talking about it, you could almost see like the energy pick up. And so I reminded him that stuff is still there. It's under the surface, covered up by all sorts of hurt and problems and bitterness, but it's still there. So again, the encouragement is reminisce, find out what it was in the first place, and then go dig that back out of them.
Yeah. Yep. Next thing is commit to showing love and appreciation again. So really having that respect and being lovingly, just with your gestures and being kind and courteous and all the things.
So you're talking about showing love, not just feeling love.
Right. Absolutely.
Because that's really the bottom line.
Yeah. Okay, for instance, we went and played pickleball this morning, and you made me my little drink.
Yeah, your little sport drink.
Yeah, AG1, right?
You got about 5 different ingredients.
Yeah, whatever. But
I wasn't going to give her hers because I wanted more energy. And I thought, well, that's selfish of you.
You made mine for me.
Yeah.
And that was just so nice. I didn't ask you, and that's a gesture of love. I know that sounds weird,
it can be funny little things, simple little things like that, exactly. But the Bible is so clear on that, especially in 1 Corinthians 13, where if you read what Paul says about what love is, none of the words describing love is patient, love is kind, none of those words describe feelings. They all describe actions. So it's kind of like you're going, duh, I know that. But are you doing that? That's the question. How are you showing actions of love?
Even when you don't feel like it. Yeah. Go after forgiveness. Like forgiveness unlocks the key to your heart and your spouse's. When you just forgive them of maybe wrongdoings or, just whatever may be the conflict. You just got to forgive.
Stop for a moment.
Let go. What?
Right now. I mean, just think about something. Is there something right now just stuck in your, it's like.
Stuck in your craw?
Stuck wherever it is. Where is it? Wherever it's stuck.
What are you talking about?
I think they're so sad.
I think that's appropriate.
No, well, hunters use that. I think the craw is in here from pheasants.
Oh, I
have no idea. Anyhow, pay attention to me, Wendy.
All right, I forgive you for making that statement.
I'm going to make a point.
Okay.
Am I? Yeah. So what was I going to say? Oh, my God.
About forgiveness.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask you, is there something right now that I'm pretty sure I've forgiven, but there's still this feeling that's associated with the offense that you felt from your loved one.
Yeah, and something
but that's not forgiveness.
Right.
That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is literally having to let it go. Doesn't mean you will completely, totally have forgetfulness and never remember it again.
Right.
But you're free from it holding you down anymore because you've offered forgiveness. You don't have to repeat it in your mind. You don't have to recall the offense again. It's done. It's over. So I just want to ask you right now, if there is something like that, you can take a moment right now and say, God, I let it go. I just forgive. It's off the agenda.
Yeah. Forgiveness is that key to freedom and bringing you two closer together for sure.
There's a fourth thing that you can do.
Well, we talked about this earlier.
Oh, we did, yeah.
But reigniting and play and romance. And so just really being intentional, making sure you do that is going to really make a difference in your relationship. So even if you don't, quote unquote, feel like being with that person, which is a shame because that's the person you married. Do it anyway. Muster it up, do it anyway, and find the joy in it, and ask the Lord to be with you as you guys are partaking in this, activity together. And again, just start to get that spark going again.
And this leads into the sort of the fifth thing that you can do, and that is to really rely on God's strength. And I also want to mention rely on God's opportunities, because if you just I don't know how to be creative in the marriage anymore. I don't know how to play. I don't know how to romance anymore. I forgot all of it.
Yeah, maybe she's rejecting all of it too. What's that about? So
God can
praying,
give you
yeah,
the creative opportunities.
Yes.
So all you need to do, and I don't mean to minimize this, but it is this simple, is just ask God, show me the opportunity so that I can show her how much I love her.
Yeah.
What can I do? Show me how you want to love her through me. God will give you the strength. That's a promise from his word. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. The power of his Spirit dwells within you. You literally can do anything.
That's right.
So don't stop yourself thinking, I just don't know how. God does, and he'll do it through you.
Yeah, he's the creator of creativity. And, also praying for your spouse that their heart would be softened, right? That's a big one. So also speak truth and love. It's tough maybe when you see something that your spouse is literally not doing well as far as within the marriage, and is not God honoring or something like that. So speaking truth and love is a big one.
I love that, by the way.
What?
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, I was just going to say it opening up the lines of communication in a gentle, non-judgmental, a non-accusatory way is going to be huge.
The reason I love that one so much about opening up the lines of communication, speaking the truth in love, is because it's so challenging. Yeah. And maybe you're a little bit like me. I like a challenge, especially if I feel like I'm going to be able to meet the challenge with God's strength. But if you need the ability to speak truth in love, again, God can give that to you. And I want to emphasize it's speak it in love part, because, man, I'm telling you, everybody can pound their fist on the table and say, listen to me, here's the truth. You can't handle the truth. Oh, that line out of Officer and a Gentleman.
No, as good as it gets.
Yeah,
no, that's not it.
No, that's as good as it gets.
What's it?
I don't know. I can picture Jack Nicholson in the witness stand.
Oh, my.
Somebody right now saying, you ding dong it's, and then you'll fill in the blank
I don't
movie.
think they're calling you ding dong.
Well, they could call me worse.
No, we're talking about not naming.
Well, that's true.
Belittling and calling names.
You can't handle the truth. So remember, God will let you speak the truth in love, which can be just a real door opener to restoring the relationship. So that doesn't necessarily mean if you're speaking the truth that you're right. It's what you believe to be right, but you've got to base it on what the Bible says. That's where you have to go for your backup support. You can't just pull things out of the air and say, well, here's the truth. You're stupid.
You don't know the name of that movie.
You don't know how to meet my needs. Watch, I'm going to think about it.
I know. It's going to just keep going in my head here. But also it's so important to seek wise counsel, whether it's at your church or some solid friends that have a solid marriage. Obviously seeking wise counsel from the Lord, but it's just so important that we have those people around us that are going to feed us and fuel us with godly input.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I was going to say, you have to be careful in terms of who you're listening to.
Right.
It's got to be the right kind of counsel.
That's what I said.
That's what you just said.
I said that.
I just said it in my own words. Okay.
All right. Let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up.
32 minutes.
Okay. All right. So let's just hit a few closing thoughts here. First and foremost, nobody escapes the strains and the stresses, the problems and the challenges in relationships, and particularly in a marriage, because you're with each other all the time.
And you were brought up differently than I was, and you're from the Midwest, I'm from the South, different things, right?
No doubt in your mind, because you've been there, done that, and maybe you're in it right now, that there are these things in your marriage that you wish were better, or pick another relationship that you want so badly for that relationship to be repaired, restored, fulfilling, lots of joy.
And yet, don't compare your marriage to somebody else's
No.
marriage. Because when you say, wish it were better in what way? Like better because you saw so-and-so on social media
Yeah.
do this, that, and the other, or better because you know that what brought you together in the first place and how it started, and you want that again, right?
Here's the good news.
Mhm.
God is for you,
Yeah.
not against you. And he is in the business of restoring relationships,
Yeah.
no matter how far apart you think you are, no matter how impossible, no matter how many times you think you've already ran after it and tried and it failed. God is in the business of restoring relationships. So,
And he can redeem the lost time that it feels like it's been. He can redeem that. Mhm.
even if things seem broken beyond repair right now, God can fix it.
Yeah.
You have to anchor yourself there. Either believe that by saying, yes, that's true, or no, I don't believe that's true. So if you decide, yes, this is true, God can restore, then start to turn it over to him. And I know you've said, I've surrendered 100 times, surrendered 101 times,
Yeah, keep going.
102. Keep following his lead on what you can do in your life in terms of relating to the one that you love.
Right. And you might be saying, but you don't understand. You don't understand. This is what's going on. You don't understand. You're right. We may not understand because we're not in your shoes, but God understands. And God is faithful. And so do not give up on God either.
It's going to be worth the fight.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk to men for a minute right now. A woman who's feeling like her man is really fighting for her, fighting for the marriage, will start to fall back in love again. So let me just be straight. Don't be such a weenie. Don't feel running out the back door, with your tail between your legs and just, mad and fussing and she's never going to change. I don't get it. Blah, 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 blah. Just this is the time for you to really, truly man up. Take hold of the responsibility that God has given you to be her protector, her provider, her lover, her encourager. You can do this.
Yeah.
In the power of Christ, you can do all things.
And women,
Take hold of it.
you can do it too. Just the same way. You can surrender, you can forgive, you can love greater, love deeper, you can pray harder, you can do all those things. And it does take work and intentionality, but it's all worth it.
Let me just mention one more thing. Wendy and I have we've come from broken marriages, and we have our own areas of responsibility that led into that, contributed to it. So we know the hurt and the pain, the sorrow, the regret, all of it that goes with any broken relationship. We truly get it. But we also know that God can redeem the time, as Wendy said, and he can restore it, and he can put back things in an order that fits in with him. If we're willing to surrender and trust and follow his lead, it can go so much better. And that's our prayer for you.
Yeah, we are cheering you on, so to speak, and praying you through. And we would love to hear from you if this podcast resonated with you at all, if you have maybe some questions or thoughts based on what we shared here today in this podcast. We're here for you. Even if we don't know you, we would love to pray with you if you're struggling. So feel free to reach out to us. And if you just don't know where to go, you don't have counsel, that kind of thing, we are right here with you and want to see you through. So we care about you, and we hope that this podcast episode will be a breakthrough for your marriage and for your relationship. So, yep.
Blessings. We want the absolute best for you, and God wants even better for you. So Go with that assurance and be blessed.
Yep. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Your Biggest Breakthrough. Please share it with others and give us a rating and a review. But we will see you soon right here on Your Biggest Breakthrough. Have a blessed day.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we love spending time with you right here on Your Biggest Breakthrough podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. But until then, just head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com, where you'll find some free resources and information and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.